All right, folks, hello everybody to Uski and Herbie. We're on a brand new feed this evening. It's StreamYard, and also we're on YouTube Live and also on Facebook Live if you have Facebook Live. Uski, you and Creek and myself, Herbie, and we have Dave Cutaia with us, the rules expert for the college football, who right now he's in beautiful California enjoying himself with the weather. So first off, Dave, how's the weather out there?
Actually, it's beautiful today. No wind. It's about 81 degrees and clear sky.
Cool. So Dave, talk about is there any new rules going to be in effect this year in 2020? Because I know last year you guys did a lot of different rules. I know there's one major rule you're going to go over is targeting, because now the targeting person who is called for targeting can stay on the field now.
Yeah, so, and that every 2 years, every other year is a year for rules changes. And the only time rules changes can be made in an off year if it deals with safety. Well, 2020 is a rules change year. That being said, they didn't change a lot of rules. Not a lot are going to affect play, but you brought up the number one rule change there is, and that's on the targeting. Targeting, the rule itself has not changed one bit. What has changed is last year, if you were ejected for targeting after it was confirmed by replay. Remember, replay has to confirm it. There's no stands. There's no anything. It's either reversed or confirmed. Well, anyway, if you were confirmed and you were removed from the game, you had to leave the team area and you had to leave any visible area of the playing field or stadium. That's been changed this year. As I said, the targeting rule is not changed. What is changed is if a player gets ejected for targeting, he merely has to stay in the team area. He doesn't have to leave the playing surface. He can stay in the team area. He's just not eligible to play anymore in that game or the very next half of the next game, depending on what half he was ejected. Now, this doesn't change other disqualifying rules. For instance, if a player gets ejected for fighting or anything like that, or 2 unsportsmanlike conduct fouls, he's got to go. Just like before, he has to leave the playing area. He has to go in the locker room or wherever, and the coach or an assistant has to go with him. So really the only thing that's been changed, if you're thrown out only for targeting, you can stay in the team area.
Dave, I'm curious, was there one particular instance, because I thought that so many times, watching college football, some of these guys, it's a violent sport. Kids can run fast. They're athletic. Obviously, right. Big hits have been very popular from, the time I was a kid. But, the fact is that, it's not intentional. It's in the heat of the moment. Was there one thing in particular that happened last year that you were like, you know what, the guy's got to go, but, taking him away from the sidelines, from the team that he's worked so hard to get on, was there one moment that made this change, that facilitated this change?
Well, I think is the reason they made the change to allow the player to stay in the team area is they felt it might have been more not embarrassing, but it was more focused on that player as he walked off the field, because the television cameras are going to follow him walking off the field. But that was really the main genesis and reason for changing this, so you don't have that so-called walk of shame, if you will.
Dave, I was watching football last year, and there was a targeting call, and someone who I was watching the game with said, I can't believe that they're still leading with their helmet. And, what is it going to take to get through these guys? And I had to stop him and say, this is a relatively new concept. I mean, when they were in, grade school, high school, and even Pee Wee League, there wasn't a lot taught about this. How do you think players have adapted?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to go back and show you my age. But when I first started officiating high school football, and when in the days before that, when I was in high school, coaches were teaching, put your helmet right in the player's number. Put your helmet right in the player's number. And the first year or two that I officiated high school sports, which was in the very late 60s, as late as it can make them without thinking you think I'm in the grave or something. But anyway, in the late 60s and very early 70s, they actually changed the rule at the high school level and someone at the college level to remove that immediate contact with a helmet, okay? That didn't change a lot. Well, it progressed quite a bit to around 2011, 2012. I'm not sure of the exact rule, is when they put in the piece of ejection for targeting. And before it was ejection no matter what. Okay. And then it's evolved to where replay can get involved. Okay. And replay can reverse that if it's not targeting on video. In fact, last year they made even a further change where replay was required to confirm the call on the field. Prior to last year, if you looked at the video and you said, well, I can't tell, I'm not sure, the officials aren't wrong, the player was gone. What was changed is now you have to confirm that to have the player leave the game, which to me is a beneficial change.
Yeah, you do a lot of officiating, Dave. You also do, the arena football, and sad that arena football folded this year. I wish they had, I know they had money issues and all that stuff, but now with all this stuff going on, probably won't even play this year if they had money to do it. But they're doing helmets. Everybody in the NFL is making, they're improving their helmets and all that. Is there a helmet rule in the college football, just like, what Antonio Brown was trying to use his old helmet? Is there like a new rule for people to get the same helmet, or they're all going to be on the same page?
There's, as far as to my knowledge right now, it's not as specific as a National Football League, but there's an organization. The acronym is NOXI, and I don't remember exactly what it stands for. Bottom line is, it's a helmet approval organization that approves helmets that can be used. They have to have a stamp on the side of them. And basically, these are the helmets that are authorized to be used in youth, high school, and college sports. But as far as being as specific as the NFL, no, but I do believe the protection is certainly equal. I mean, there's no, downgrading. The helmets have evolved tremendously in the past several years. 10 or 12 years ago is the time that people were afraid sporting goods manufacturers weren't going to make helmets anymore because there were so many catastrophic injuries. There used to be every sporting goods manufacturer in the world used to make football helmets. Then it went way, way down to 1 or 2 or 3. And now I think there's 3 or 4 that do it. I don't know the exact number. But the helmets have evolved and have become more safe. And with this targeting rule, which I consider very, very important. And it's a huge safety issue, not only for the kid that's getting hit, but the kid that's doing the hitting. Because you drop your head with that crown of the helmet, you compress your neck, and you're liable to get hurt more than the player you're hitting.
That's true. I agree. I think football is getting a little more violent than we used to play it on the streets, right? We used to play the dirt lot, right, with no helmets.
I think it's getting more violent because these athletes are stronger, quicker, faster. They train harder. There's more accessibility to get them in peak physical condition. And I think it's just a sign of the times, really.
Well, and I agree. I think the players every year evolve and get better and better and better as we go along for the exact reasons that you said, and I think that's part of it. But the other part of it is, for a while there, you used to see the NFL highlights or the highlights 5-10 years ago with the big hits, where they depleted somebody and everybody was cheering. Where, they found out those are catastrophic injury causing hits, the potential to cause catastrophic injury. So they had to get them out of the game, or the game would not be around, quite frankly, especially when it was discovered that the brain injuries that they weren't aware of before very recently.
Oh, I agree with you. When I was a kid growing up, my parents got me an NFL video and it had like Lawrence Taylor on there. And Lawrence Taylor used to go, he went full blast. This asked Joe Theismann about his leg.
Exactly.
Yeah, but he felt really bad about it. If you see that whole video, that whole scene, Lawrence Taylor was so in shock that he broke the Theismann's leg. He was like, "Somebody come over here! Come over here!" He was scared out of his mind.
Yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry,
Dave. I wanted to ask you. In the NFL, and honestly, I don't know the answer to this, but in the NFL, they have the people I think they're in the press box or the broadcast booth that are able to ring down and stop the game in case they see someone, a player disorientated, or, maybe they just want to check them out. Do we have that in college football?
Yeah, actually, there's a provision for that. It's a medical person that can basically, if it's replay involved, they hit a pager. The officials on the field are paged. That's when the referee come out. The previous plays under further review. The medical person can do that too, with the same system, and that person can review and decide that player is out of the game. So that is a provision also in the NCAA rules.
Hey, what part of California are you in?
Northern California, a town called Benicia, about 28,000 people, about 35 miles northeast of San Francisco, and right across the river from where I used to be police chief. So it's nice.
How about that? Wow. Hey, Herb and I have been wanting to take a trip. His girlfriend wants to go see some vineyards. Do you have any out there?
Yeah, about 30. Well, actually, about 5 minutes from my house. But the Napa Valley, the big deal, if you will, is about 30 minutes north of here. So I can get to the south end of that valley in 25 minutes.
Oh, beautiful. Herb, that sounds fantastic. Well, once this is over, who knows? Who knows? We might want to take Herb is trying to get a little bit more sophisticated, so he says he needs to become a wine connoisseur. So you lead the way with that, Dave. And everybody in your family doing well?
Absolutely. Everybody's doing well. We did have two cousins that had coronavirus. One lived in Chicago, one lived in Seattle. Actually, three, both the husband and wife, but they've all since recovered and everything's fine.
Oh, thank God. That's great.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great. Well, Dave, I hope to see you sometime or talk to you again when the season starts up. Hopefully we'll have media day, and hopefully we can start on time. And I know a lot of these states are trying to make sure everything's perfect, and but I feel like we might be maybe delayed a little bit, but I think the season will be a full season.
Yeah, there's a couple more rule changes. If you're interested, I can go through quickly. Whatever you want to do.
Go ahead.
Okay, and I mentioned before, and we're getting back to your comment about hopefully there's a season. You think there will be a season. From talking to people and what I know the NCAA, college commissioners, athletic directors, doctors are all working together to try to mitigate this, to have at least some type of season. So, you just don't know with this, but I think they're moving that way, but I don't know. Who knows? Right. It depends, And like I said, there's a couple of other minor ones. Officials' jurisdiction starts 90 minutes before, and the reason for that, a lot of times there were players out there jumping on logos of the team with no shirt on or no identifying. Now, officials 90 minutes before, they can flag him for that, and also the player must be wearing his uniform when he's out there. So you can't have somebody out there with a shirt with no identification jumping on a logo, and officials can actually call an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty 90 minutes before the game. So that's what was that. Basically unfair tactics that, you have this quick substitution. You have to let the defense match up. But they've changed the rule a little bit on the defense, making it more strict. Defense, you can have more than 11 players on there until the snap is imminent. Once it's imminent, you better only have 11 on there. Right. If the offensive team has to call a timeout because they can't read the defense because the defense have too many players, it's a 5-yard penalty, and the offense gets their timeout back. Instant replay. Basically, what they want to do with instant replay is they're putting a 2-minute time limit on it, but this is not a hard time limit. They want it done in 2 minutes unless it's a complicated play or play that's a game decider, like at the end of the game. There's no hard and fast rule where the TV camera shut off at 2 minutes, but they want it sped up for obvious reasons. If you can't find something in 2 minutes, you better stay with a call in the field because there's not enough there to change it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, no longer on punt plays and field goal plays can a defensive player like the nose guard line up, head up on the center. It's like the NFL now. Nobody can be head up on the center on a scrimmage kick, punt, or field goal play. Okay, and if it is, it's an illegal formation. That NFL's had this in for a decent amount of time. If there's 3 seconds left in either half, okay, and the referee is going to start the clock and they're ready for play, not wait for the snap, replay can adjust the clock and put time back if there's an error. If there's under 3 seconds, they can't. Half is over, replay can't get involved. That's not going to happen that often. Jerseys used to be any number of players could wear the same number on a team. That's been limited now to 2. two players, okay? And never can you have two players numbered the same in the game at the same time. And they've also legalized number 0 as a number, not 00, but just 0. Okay, not 07, not 007, just 0. Okay.
Oh, that's my number. 0. Yeah.
That's
well,
like I said. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. This sounds really cool.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like that rule about the fight before the game. I think they should have had that back in '96 when Florida and Florida State were going at it with the logos, and like the one guy went over the Florida State logo and stamped on it, and another guy. That's what
that's exactly the reason they extended the time limit. And if you're going to go stomp on somebody's logo, you better have a jersey on and better be ready for a 15-yard penalty on the opening kickoff.
Exactly.
Wow.
Or even be ejected if it's really bad.
That is something. Dave Cutaia joining us on Herb FM Sports Radio, going over the changes and just touching base on what we're trying to do to improve the safety of our sports. And Dave, we don't know what the future holds here, but I can tell you with absolute certainty, this country needs football back. I think sports in a time like this, man, it can just galvanize. Remember, before we're Republicans, Democrats, white or black, we're all Americans. And it doesn't get any more American than college football Saturday mornings.
And I think that's what they're trying to do. Of course, with the number one thing is safety and people's health, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Dave, thanks for coming on and be safe. And we'll talk to you hopefully be starting the season.
Thanks, guys. Be safe, too. Take care.
Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Next up on the show, we're a little over, but we got our good friend Aaron Summers with us. Aaron.
Hi.
Oh, hey,
how you
Aaron.
guys
How's
doing?
everything going?
Good.
All right. Dave's
good.
still on the call. Get ready to get off. So, how's everything there in North Carolina?
It's kind of the same thing every day. Try to get outside a little bit, but most of the time it's just getting dressed to go hang out in my living room. And I've been watching lots of sports documentaries, trying to kind of stay in the realm of the sports world as much as I can. Really been enjoying The Last Dance, of course, on ESPN, the Jordan documentaries. And
so good.
Oh, I love those things. I've been watching that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, Jordan's good. That was good back to seeing back in the days before '98.
Mm-hmm.
So Aaron, last year did you join the ACC network? Did you do a lot of work with the new network? And how do you think about the first year it went?
Yeah, so I've been on with the network some, but I've still been doing stuff with ESPN. The last ESPN game I worked was the SoCon Championship, one of the only basketball tournaments that actually got to complete. So that was exciting for different reasons. But no, I think that the ACC network's done really well in its first year. They didn't try to blow it out of the water in the first year. They kind of started things slow with a small cast of characters that they had on all the time on their little shows that they had.
Yes.
And so they're kind of evaluating where things are at now. And of course, with the coronavirus pandemic, that changes things even more before they really kind of decide what more they want to do with it or what they want to change down the line.
Yeah, Aaron, I got to tell you, we were just talking to Dave and I was like, everyone's asking me about baseball and basketball playoffs. And I'm like, everybody settle down. And in my mind, I really want to say, as long as football starts on time, everything's going to be all right,
I know. It's going to be so tough. I think that we will get a season. I think it'll be pushed back a little bit. I mean, right now, there are no student athletes on campus, which isn't what would usually be the case. Usually, students would be coming back for at least the second session of summer school, and they'd be working out with their teams. So we're going to hit a point where we have to decide whether the student athletes have enough time to get ready to play, because conditioning for football and wearing pads is completely different than basketball or baseball. And it's just different. It's a more physical sport.
Yeah,
and
Aaron, another thing,
be tough.
It's recruiting right now.
Yeah.
It's like how are these major programs? Because you're used to, flying in, and I always hear coaches say for years, it's like they sit down in someone's living room, they talk to their parents.
Mm-hmm.
What are is it just all done through camera? What are you hearing about the recruiting process now?
Yeah, it's crazy because usually you would be out hitting the road. Everyone says, I'm on the road, I'm recruiting, I'm going to go visit everybody. And you get to shake mom and dad's hand. And that means a lot to come into somebody's living room, but they're just coming in a different way now, kind of like we are right now. Everybody's doing what they can to reach people, obviously staying on the phone. Social media has been really big. That's still an area that's not really regulated. So people can send messages, DMs or, straight messages via Instagram or Twitter or Facebook and stuff. So I'm not sure how savvy all of the coaches are in that regard, but they can use social media.
Yeah, I can see Mac Brown right now. Just getting on. What part of North Carolina are you in?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, right on. I'm in
right in the heart of the triangle. Yeah.
Right on. I'm in Charlotte. So.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, right on. Herbie?
Yeah. Well, Aaron, this year with the Coastal Division coming up, it seems like everybody's trying to beat Clemson. Clemson's the team, just like back in the day when Florida State used to roll in through the ACC like nothing's business. Maybe one game here, lost one here. Is there anybody in the Coastal Division could beat a Clemson squad? I know they're picking Virginia Tech to win the Coastal Division this year, just like last year they picked Virginia to win it, and the year before that was Miami. Are they just grabbing names out of a hat to say, can somebody go knock off Clemson?
For sure. I mean, the last 7 years, we've had a different Coastal Division champion. So that kind of just speaks to the level of competition. Right. Maybe that not as high as Clemson, but they all are very competitive. They kind of switch it up every year as far as who's been the best. But I think that North Carolina has a really good chance to come out and compete this year. Obviously, we saw what Sam Howell can do as a freshman quarterback last year. Mac Brown will be in his second season with the team, and everybody there, Jay Bateman, has done a really good job with the defense. He's the defensive coordinator there. They really came on strong towards the end of the season. So if they can kind of continue the success that they had offensively and then build off of that defense that they started to really kind of click with at the end of the season, I think that they're going to be a threat. And then I guess the other one you might say would be Miami. They're always kind of a hot choice. Everybody likes to pick Miami, but they do have a new quarterback that's come in from Houston. So they're really going to try to pick up some of the pieces that they couldn't get together last year. And I think that that's a good start with Derek King.
And I want to ask you one more question about Miami.
Yeah.
Do you feel like if Diaz does not get off the snide and do better than last year? I know he's trying to change what Mark Richt had, and it took a while for all the garbage to get out of down there in Miami. But do you feel like if he doesn't get out of the gate just like Willie Taggart did last year, Miami's going to be looking for another head coach?
I don't know. I mean, they had some discipline issues, so that's something that they're going to need to kind of get a strong hold on this season. Make sure that everybody's staying in line. And Diaz did explain that several times, saying that it wasn't something that was a problem with the program. I think they'll give him a little bit longer. The Taggart situation was crazy, but I mean, Diaz has a lot of people that speak very highly of him still. I think it's just been a tough transitional time for them.
Yeah.
And Aaron, I think because he was kind of promoted from within, but Miami has such a rich tradition. I could see it going, either way. But I wanted to ask you, we talked a little bit about recruiting, and I looked through these recruiting classes, who's get the best. Can you give us maybe, is there a particular incoming freshman at any team that's really caught your eye to be like, this guy's going to be a game changer?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been spending a lot of time with the 2021 class because that's what everybody's talking about right now. That's a tough one. I'm not sure who I would pick from the 2020 class. Obviously, the big name that just went off the board was Will Shipley, the running back from Weddington that decided to go to Clemson over UNC, Duke, NC State, Notre Dame, Stanford, I think was his other. So that kind of was a blow to basically the entire Coastal, knowing that Clemson got to steal another really good athlete.
You know what? Honestly, I was hoping that Etienne would go to the NFL. I can't believe he came back because I just felt like, we cover the ACC, and sometimes the 30-point wins, you want to see Clemson be challenged more than 1 or 2 games before the postseason. Obviously, they're always going to be on national TV. You mentioned Miami. I love what Mac Brown is doing. I think, what really impressed me was when he came out, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. When he was out of coaching for such a long time, and he was like, the game has changed and evolved. Why don't I get an offensive coordinator in here who's changed with the times? Why don't you speak to me about what your impressions were with Mac his first season?
Yeah, Mac is incredible. He's really fun just to kind of talk to. He's really laid back, very accessible. A lot of people around here really enjoy him. A lot of the high school coaches around the area like him a lot as well. He's got a good relationship with them. So I think that he's kind of just the people pleaser. He's the guy that's going to go around and shake everybody's hands. He's going to talk to all the donors. He's going to be the face of the program and smile. And everybody that has to give money likes him. So they're going to give money to him. And then he lets the football be the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Everybody else, kind of gets the nuts and bolts of it going underneath him.
Right on.
Yeah, I agree. Aaron, is there any surprise freshmen coming in this year that we need to put a circle on that we might want to see at ACC kickoff if we have it in July? Because I'm getting ready to get my
I know. So usually we all do get together for the ACC kickoff in July, but I kind of fear that it's going to be something like this where we're all we get a few minutes to talk to a coach and then move on. It's not going to have the same type of feel or access. There's actually a couple good transfers that I think will be interesting to watch. Duke's got a new quarterback transfer that was the backup at Clemson, and Chase Bryce. So he's somebody I think that's going to be really interesting just to see how he changes things, kind of what he learned under Trevor Lawrence, and then what he can apply at Duke. Of course, David Cutcliffe is very well known for being a really good quarterback coach. With Daniel Jones going to the Giants recently and all the work that he's done with both of the Mannings.
Yeah, Aaron, let me ask you this. Trevor came out of the box so strong, and he just took the college football landscape by storm. Mm-hmm. Last year, for one reason or another, was a little bit more inconsistent, kind of showed his age. What are you expecting from Lawrence year 3?
I think it's a combination of he really wanted to do it all. So maybe he put a little more pressure on himself. And then the fact that people had another year to watch his tendencies, to see him, to adjust to his style of play. So I think that that's going to even be another challenge in year 3, is that defenses kind of know what to expect from him. And it's going to make stuff a little bit tougher. Obviously, he's very gifted, very talented. That Clemson team as a whole is very good. So that helps him kind of offset maybe people's game plans against him. But I think that that's part of it, is that other teams kind of caught up to what he's been doing to them.
Yeah. Hey, everybody in your family okay and safe?
Yes, we are all good.
Okay.
Yes, good. Very, very bored. Lots of Zoom calls and stuff like that. But everybody's healthy, so that's good.
Thank God, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you.
Of course, it was fun. Good to see you guys. Okay.
I want one last question to ask you. What are you watching during the whole quarantine besides the Bulls?
Okay, so I watched the OJ documentary because when it's in season, I don't get a chance to watch anything but really games. So I'm trying to catch up on all this other stuff that's been out there. So I watched that one. I watched the Junior Seau one. I've been kind of just doing a bunch of documentaries like that. And then, of course, you do a little bit of Tiger King. You did that when that whole thing happened. Everybody was watching that. So whatever is kind of like the trendy thing to do, you got to check it out and see what it's all about.
That's awesome.
That's great. Well, Aaron, thanks for coming on tonight, and be safe. And we'll hope to see you probably in Charlotte or maybe on a virtual, conference call like we're doing right now.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right, that's Aaron Summers, who works for the ACC Network, and coming up right now on the big show here, Ewan, is our good friend Jerry DiPaola from the Pittsburgh Papers up there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So hold on, I hit too many buttons here. Oh yeah, Jerry. There's Jerry. Hey Jerry, how's everything going?
I'm wonderful. How you guys doing?
Not bad. So we've had Jerry DiPaola
right?
on our show.
JD, great to see you, man. Great to see you, JD.
Good to see you.
So Jerry, what have you been up to since the last time I talked to you? I think we talked to you sometime in March, and then everything went downhill.
Yeah, it's been a big change for me. Although I do a lot of work at home anyway, so I'm sitting here at my dining room table, and I move from one end to the other every couple of weeks. So I don't wear a hole in the carpet. But I've been doing a lot of recruiting stories. Not so much Pirates anymore, but a lot of Pitt things. Pitt had a nice story today. There are three main coaches, three big time coaches: Pat Narduzzi, Lance White, the women's basketball coach, and Jeff Capel, the men's basketball coach, donated $500,000 of their own money. Oh, and Heather Light, the AD, also $500,000 of their own money to the research that's being done at the University of Pittsburgh to try to combat the COVID-19 virus. And then the Pirates, Penguins, and Steelers added another $100,000 to that. So $800,000 today donated to COVID-19 research initiated by the University of Pittsburgh.
Wow.
That is awesome, Jerry. Hey, Jerry, you mentioned the recruits. Give me a freshman who's going to come in and make an impact for Pat Narduzzi right off the bat.
Well, Pitt actually had 3 days of spring drills. A lot of schools didn't have any. Penn State didn't have any. Clemson had 9. But 3 days we watched practice. There was a running back by the name of Izzy Abanaconda from New York City. And I watched the practice. He actually broke off a 75-yard run. They were in pads. He juked out of the way of a defensive lineman at the line of scrimmage, changed course on a dime, and he outran a defensive back, a pretty fast defensive back, all the way to the end zone for a 75-yard run. Now, that was in practice. Wow. It was in spring practice. Let's not get too excited about it. It might be the running back Pitt's looking for, because last year, one of the big drawbacks for that team was their running game. The year before, they had 2 1,000-yard rushers in Quadriolis and Darren Hall. Last year's running game was horrible, and then it ended up costing them in a lot of games, especially the Boston College game where they couldn't hold on to the football because the running game didn't work. But Izzy Abanaconda is only a freshman. He looks like he might be a keeper who might be able to help the running game if the offensive line comes together, too. Another big if.
Yeah, just like that Miami game, Pitt was marching. They only got field goals, and they couldn't get one in the end zone.
In the Penn State game, when they were on the 1-yard line, first and goal at the 1, couldn't score, and then Pat Narduzzi ended up trying to kick a field goal down 7 points in the last few minutes of the game, and ended up missing the field goal and losing the game.
Yeah. So Jerry, what does we're talking about the running game for Pitt? What did they have to do with Pickett? Pickett's a senior. It seems like he's been there for 8 years, longer than you've been there, or what?
Well, Kenny Pickett is actually approaching his third full year as a starter.
Wow.
He started the 18 and 19 seasons, and then he even started a couple games at the end, maybe just one game at the end of the 17 season, where he had engineered the upset of number 2 Miami in the last game of the season. It was a 5-7 Pitt team, ended up 5-7. But Pickett was able to start that game, his only start of the season, and he ended up leading the upset. So he started, I guess by the time he's done at Pitt, he'll have started around 40-some games. So they have experience at quarterback. Not often you get a 3-year starter at quarterback, and that's what Pitt's going to have this year. And like I said, if the game comes together, if the offensive line comes together, a couple of big ifs, they might be able to complement that defense, which looks like it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, the defense was stellar last year. I gotta ask you, just from a guy who just is so kind of embedded. And I got to tell you something. I met Coach Narduzzi last year at ACC Media Day. The guy was just phenomenal. His energy. I mean, I love the guy. All seriousness, how would you assess thus far the job that he's been doing?
Well, I would say, I give him maybe, a B plus. I mean, they did go to the ACC championship game in 2018. They finally won a bowl game last year. They came from behind to beat Eastern Michigan. Pitt, by the way, has not beaten a Power 5 team in a bowl game since 2010. So that's something they have to, try to do this year. I think he's done a good job. The recruiting seems to be coming along. He's been recruiting pretty well in the South. He has been a lot of kids from Florida. Watch out for Rashad Weaver, a Florida kid who got hurt in training camp last year. Looked like he was going to be Pitt's best defensive lineman. Ended up needing knee surgery, missed the entire season. And he might be maybe the best defensive end in the ACC if he's healthy this year. But this is the year, though. Pitt has won double digit games, 10 games only once since Jackie Sherrill left in 1981.
Wow.
10-win season since 1981. So this is the season with all those guys coming back on defense. You got Paris Ford coming back, DeMar Hamlin coming back at safety, Jalen Twyman coming back on a defensive line, and Patrick Jones coming back at defensive end. 4 defensive players who would have been drafted this year.
Wow.
They decided to come back to Pitt and form the nucleus of that defense. And if they play like they did last year, for the most part, in most of the games last season, because it wasn't a real consistent effort, but with all the experience they have and all the playmaking ability they have, with Paris Ford being a really good playmaker in that deep secondary, I think Pitt should be able to win 10 games this year. Or like I told somebody, if they don't win 10 games, somebody's going to want to know the reason why.
Interesting. Jerry, you mentioned Jalen Twyman, right? Twyman. I've seen a little bit of film on this guy. I mean, his hand, his explosiveness. Could this be? I read that he's, the first interior lineman to lead the team in sacks since Aaron Donald had 10 and a half. Is this a future first-round draft pick in the NFL?
Well, I got a pressure on the kid. I don't know that he's a first-round draft pick. I don't think a lot of people consider him a first-round draft pick right now. I actually saw a 2021 mock draft the other day for just the first round, and Twyman wasn't on it. It doesn't mean he can't, be on it when we get into next April. But the kid's really a hard worker. He comes from the mean streets of Washington, D.C., and worked his butt off to get where he's at. Really a fun kid to talk to. Looks like he's going to be a good NFL player, maybe a great ACC player. He's pretty good last year, with his sacks and tackles for loss. And he has guys around him that are very good too. I mentioned Rashad Weaver, defensive end, was going to be Pitt's best defensive lineman last year before he got hurt. Now he's back and healthy. Keyshawn Camp was going to be a starter last year on the defensive line. Now he's healthy and is going to be back for the entire season, they hope. And then Patrick Jones, who had a lot of sacks at defensive end, is also back. So you got 4 guys coming back on that defensive line that are really, really good players. Could be the nucleus of that defense.
Yeah. Jared, did you get a chance to go down to spring training before everything all went south with all the Corona stuff, or did you see the Pirates?
No, I didn't, but I did have a chance the other day on Friday to have an exclusive interview with Quinn Hurdle, the former Pirate manager.
Wow.
Former Met, too. He's a former
Met. Yeah. You're a Met fan?
Oh, yeah. I was born and raised a Met fan. So,
yeah.
See, that's why I'm wearing the orange jersey.
There you go. Quinn's in Florida. They're living in Florida with his family. He has a place down there on Anna Marie Island. And he's homeschooling his 2 kids. He has 2 teenage kids, a son and a daughter. He's homeschooling them. They're reading Huck Finn, as a matter of fact. And that was one thing he wanted to tell me. They're down to chapter 39, Huckleberry Finn. And he's really enjoying life down there. He gets up every morning before sunrise to look at the sunset. The sunset's very magnificent. And I asked him if he was going to miss baseball. And he said he really doesn't know yet because there hasn't been any baseball to miss. But, once the season starts, maybe he'll miss it. And he did have a chance to actually become the hitting coach of the San Diego Padres this year, but he turned down the offer. It was a 2-year contract. He turned it down because he really wanted to spend time with his family. He said, I've been married 20 years. He said, but really I've only been married 10 because that's about the amount of time I get to spend with my wife. and he wants to spend more time with his kids. And you got to give him, give him a lot of credit for that.
Sure, Jerry. Everybody in your family doing okay, and your loved ones doing okay?
Yeah, doing well. My wife and I are here. We watch the stuff on Netflix, and I try to do my work on the dining room table. And the grandkids and the kids are going to come up over the weekend for Mother's Day, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Beautiful, beautiful, Jerry.
Cool. What are you watching on Netflix? Because there's a tons of stuff.
Ozark. If you watched Ozark,
huh? Yeah.
Ozark was great. Do not, by any means, watch The Tiger King. It is the stupidest, most idiotic program I think I've ever tried to watch.
I saw
15 minutes of it,
and I'm like, okay.
and I turned it off. It was horrible. And as a matter of fact, a couple of days later, we had a Zoom conference call with Pat Narduzzi, and I asked him about it. And he says he agreed with me. He didn't get it at all. His kids were watching it at home. He got up and walked away.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, the one program I'm watching is called Upload. It's on Amazon. It's about this guy who passed away, and his girlfriend gets all his upload his entire life to a special place up in the sky, and he gets like all this special treatments. A really cool series that is put out on Amazon.
You watch much more TV than you ever thought.
I'm bored. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. But what else are you going to do when you're not working? We walk the dog a lot.
Yeah, that's what I do, JD. Hey, the country needs college football to start on time, my friend.
Oh, my God, yeah. I don't think it is. I really don't think college football is going to start on time. I just don't think they're going to be ready. Some states are going to be ready. Some states aren't going to be ready.
Right. Hey, JD, have you watched Jordan? Have you watched The Last Dance? Have you watched The Last Dance?
Oh, no. I'm not a big NBA fan.
What? Come on.
What can I tell you? I tell you what I did watch. I watched the replay of the 7th game of the 1960, 1971, 1979 World Series.
You're like me, watching all the old Met games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You're a historian. Yeah.
I
was going to try to guess who won those games and who played in it, but I'm not even going to do it, Jerry.
I enjoy watching the old telecast. I really do. It's sometimes even more fun than the current one, especially when you consider the way the Pirates play. It's better to watch the previous Pirate teams than to watch the current Pirate team.
Dave Parker, Willie Stargell, my favorite, Willie.
Oh, no one threw a ball like Stargell and Clemente. Clemente. Their arms from right field, unbelievable.
Yeah, Clemente had a cannon. Yeah, my dad told me a story about him, how he threw one from the corner down in Memorial Stadium, right in the corner, and nailed the guy at third base. I'm like, wow. Yeah, you don't want to run on him. Yeah.
I used to go out to Ford Field to watch him play.
Wow. Ford Field, that's an old ball. Is that still that's good? It's gone in Pittsburgh, but
it's on the campus of the University of Pittsburgh, and home plate is still sitting where normally you could see. You have to go see it. You walk in one of the buildings out there, and there's home plate right there in the lobby, which is the actual spot play was. Yeah.
Field trip. We're going. Let's go. Field trip. Let's go up there.
There you go. Next time you're in Pittsburgh, guys.
Exactly. We're gonna get there
every October 13th. People get together outside the wall, the Ford Field wall, which is still standing, by the way, and they do a replay of the 60 World Series where Bill Mazeroski hit the home run.
Wow.
So October 13th, every October 13th, they go out there and they replay the game.
Well, hopefully we can get up there and watch a football game and maybe watch, maybe stop over there, because I know my girlfriend, she's a Ravens fan, and she says Pittsburgh's a little dirty. I'm like,
dirty?
Okay, Pittsburgh people, it's a nice city. Yeah, come on.
Well, I tell you what, I've been to Baltimore many times and I loved it. And Pittsburgh's a great city if you get to know it.
It's a rivalry thing. It's a rivalry thing. You see it all the time. with Washington and Dallas. I don't like that city.
Right.
Come on now. Well, Jerry, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for being part of the first live broadcast of our Uski and Herbie here on StreamYard, and we'll talk to you hopefully soon, and hopefully we'll get some football.
It's a lot of fun. Hope to see you in football season.
We'll see you then.
Later on, JD.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
From the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review, and coming up in a minute or so, we'll add our good friend Trevor Groves from CUTigers.com, who we're looking for his photograph. Yeah, he's incognito. He has his logo from his college days. Trevor, are you okay? I think we're still waiting.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear his voice, but where's the picture?
That's great.
That's what you got. You got my avatar.
That's okay.
I didn't know y'all were going to be doing video. So
It's like the old '70s
I think
TV show. Like, hey, look,
here.
everybody. This is yeah. So we got Trevor Groves from, he's the owner and publisher of CUTigers.com. So, Trevor, I want to ask you a question. I saw you on Facebook. You went to, you did something very exciting a couple weeks ago. You went down to Mississippi for a friend of your family's, or somebody in your family is in the military. Can you explain what you were down there for?
Yeah, it was actually my best friend from my Clemson days. One of my fraternity brothers. He's actually a surgeon in the Air Force, and so he was working at the Air Force base down in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, for the last couple of years. But he was getting ready to be deployed to the Middle East to serve his time over there. So just decided with the outbreak of the coronavirus that it would be a good place to hunker down and quarantine myself with he and his family and spend a little time with them before he got deployed.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So where are you right now? You still back home in South Carolina, or did you go up to your mom's?
I am back in Clemson,
Okay.
although I think I'm probably going to my parents are at their place in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, on the beach now, and I think they've finally opened the beaches there. So I plan to, in the next couple of days, go spend a little bit of time with them on the coast of South Carolina and see my sister as well, who is in Beaufort, South Carolina. So it's a good time with everything shut down. I'm ready for things to get back to normal, as I'm sure you guys are as well. But just a good time to be able to spend some time, extra time with family. Before hopefully things return to normal and we resume our busy work lives, and also to take care of a lot of things on that to-do list that have been pending for a long time.
Trevor, speaking of which, everybody in your family okay? Before we get into football, how's everybody doing?
We're all great. We're all healthy, and knock on wood, hopefully it'll stay that way. Thanks for asking, and hope it's the same with y'all. Yeah,
it is on both of our ends, and every guest that we've had, I've said the same thing. I just feel more than I ever have felt. All my friends are like, what's going on with baseball? They're going to play the playoffs, NBA. And, in my mind, I don't say it, but I'm like, as long as football starts on time, I'm good. I think the country needs a rallying cry at this point, Trevor, more so than anything else, something to look forward to.
Call me overly optimistic like Dabo, but from the outset of this thing, I've said, I will be shocked if we don't have college football, because this country is just too football obsessed that I think that it will, especially after the last couple of months, everybody's on pins and needles, getting the shakes and just itching for live sports, and so much so that they're watching replays of old games every day. And I think the NFL will start on time, and I think college football will follow suit and do so as well.
Yeah, everybody's watching Korean baseball. I was watching that yesterday. I was like,
exactly.
Carter Rabbit is sitting in his own house doing the play-by-play with Eduardo Perez. I'm like, okay, you're up at 2 a.m. with headsets on and look like you know what you're doing.
Yeah. One day, just for kicks, a few weeks ago, I went on ESPN just to see what was on the ESPN app, just to see if there was actually anything, worldwide, globally happening live. And usually the list is a mile long, with the dozens of different sports, but I think there were literally like 3 things going on. It's like mixed martial arts and cricket or something like that. So it's definitely bizarre and ready for things to get back to normal. But I think, and actually in recent days, I've heard and read in some places that, like Greg Sankey from the SEC made a comment about the SEC potentially playing a full football season, even if nobody else does. And so, and the Notre Dame AD made a comment that he was very confident and optimistic about playing a full football season. So I think even if we might see some some schools, we might see a mix. I think we might see schools that are in highly infected areas and highly populated places, like New Jersey and Rutgers, something like that, may not play a season, or schools that aren't as football dependent may not play their seasons. But I'll be really shocked if schools like Clemson and the SEC schools don't play in some shape or form.
Hey, Trevor, I wanted to ask you, obviously Trevor Lawrence's first year comes out of the gates. He just takes college football by storm last year. Not the same amount of consistency. Maybe teams got some tape on him. What do you expect from him this year?
Oh, I think he'll have a great season. And I think he got a little bit of a bad rap for this past season just because of the way things started. And, he maybe took a couple of boneheaded chances that he didn't need to take, and had some interceptions that he shouldn't have had in the first few games. And I think he got really overly criticized for that, just because the expectations were so ridiculously, unrealistic for him coming off that Alabama domination, that and he even said at one point that got in his head a little bit, and that he was trying to do too much. But I think once he put that behind him and just started letting the game come to him like he did when he was a freshman, which was right around the time of that Louisville game. We saw the true Trevor Lawrence. And granted, he did not have a good national championship game against LSU. In fact, that was probably the worst performance of his career, unfortunately. But I expect him to bounce right back from that. I mean, that was the guy's first loss, and I don't know how long, going back to high school. And so, I think he was better though last year than he was as a freshman. Despite what some people might think, just because of the narrative of the way the season started. But if you look at the last, probably the last 8 games between the Louisville game and that Ohio State game, his numbers were right there with Joe Burrow's. I mean, the guy didn't have a single interception. And he was, and he also added the running element to his game, which he didn't really have. He only had 1 rushing touchdown as a freshman in 2018. So he really added that element to his game, and we all saw it on center stage against Ohio State with the runs he had that really carried the team on his shoulders. And I expect him to just have barring injury, obviously, but I expect him to have an unbelievable year again in 2020.
Yeah. Let's talk about the draft, Trevor. Are you gonna be a Las Vegas Raider? Because it seems like they all are going out to Vegas now to play with John Gruden.
Boy, John Gruden loves the Tigers, doesn't he? I think it's 5 now that he's drafted in the last 2 drafts from Clemson. So, it's kind of becoming Clemson West there in the desert. So, definitely will be interesting following those guys. But it was not just an unbelievable draft for Clemson. I mean, I was disappointed that T. Higgins didn't go first round. Of course, he went first pick of the second round. So just missed out on having 3 first rounders. But I think most people that, in fact, probably the biggest storyline of the entire draft was what the Packers did, not drafting Higgins and instead drafting Jordan Love as a backup to Aaron Rodgers as the heir apparent. So pretty much everybody expected T. Higgins to be a first round pick, but he wasn't. But still, with Simmons and Terrell, they had 2 first rounders in back-to-back years. But it was just a great draft. Clemson had 7 picks overall, and which actually was a school record, or not a school record, but their 6 picks in the first 4 rounds was a school record. They had previously had 5 picks in the first 4 rounds, 5 separate times in school history. So that was a new record. But they've had at least 1 first rounder in 7 of the last 8 drafts. Only Alabama and Florida have done that. I think they were the only school with back-to-back first round picks or multiple first round picks in back-to-back years, other than Oklahoma and Ohio State and Alabama through the last 4 years. So just kind of keeping the trend going with what Dabo Swinney has done. He has 64 draft picks now in his 11 years. So right around 6 picks per year. And just to put that into perspective, like I said, Clemson historically has not done that. I mean, it's just remarkable what he's been able to do. He's had 13 first rounders, which represents about 1/3 of Clemson's first round picks throughout their 124 year history. So it was an impressive draft, and I expect more of the same next year. I think they'll have 3 to 4 first-round picks next year. You look at Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, everybody's expecting him to go number 1 overall. If not number 1, he'll go number 2 behind Justin Fields. And then you look at Justin Ross, will probably be a first-rounder, and most likely Travis Etienne, and then possibly Xavier Thomas as well.
You know, Trevor, I wanted to ask you real quick about Etienne. I got to tell you, I was a little shocked he came back. You know, I thought.
Oh,
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I think, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say shocked necessarily. I mean, because just, you know, having talked to him over the years and just knowing his personality, it didn't absolutely, you know, just totally catch me off guard. But you know, if you asked me before the announcement, I would have given him, you know, maybe a 30% chance of coming back, something along those lines. I knew that he would probably get a second-round grade, which is what he got. But also, I think, you know, just the type of kid he is. He just, I don't think he wants to end his career with that bad taste in his mouth, losing to LSU. Kind of similar situation to Christian Wilkins and those three defensive linemen that decided to return for their senior year for Clemson. And then, of course, went on to win it all as seniors in 2018. So I think he's kind of following their example. And but obviously, that's like Dabo hitting the jackpot. I mean, go back. That's probably the most surprising, I would say, since you know, CJ Spiller decided to come back and play his senior year. And it was kind of a similar situation where he was given a second-round grade coming out as a junior. But for Dabo to be able to get, you know, Travis Etienne back, that's just like getting a 6 or 7 star recruit in that number 1 recruiting class that they pulled in on top of it. So yeah, their offense is going to be scary, but you know, their defense as well. Their defense is going to be scary, and Clemson's had the number 1 scoring defense the last 2 seasons. But with the kids that they hauled in and the guys they have returning on that defense, it's going to be. I expect them to have the nation's number 1 scoring defense again for a 3rd year in a row, because you give experience to those guys that they had on the defensive front last year. Plus you add, you know, freshmen, difference makers coming in as freshmen, like Brian Brzee and DeMonte Capehart at defensive tackle, and then Miles Murphy at defensive end. It's going to be something to watch.
Exactly. Well, Trevor, thanks so much for coming on to the first ever broadcast of the Uski and Herbie show live on StreamYard, and we're going to be doing this next Wednesday at 7:00, and we got other stuff we're going to do. Hopefully, we'll see you at ACC kickoff if there is. If not, we'll have a virtual kickoff here. Probably, you know. Hopefully, we'll get coaches to join us. But you be safe and tell your parents, your mom, Happy Mother's Day and all that stuff.
I appreciate that, Chris. And just to let y'all know, I just published a story a few hours ago on the website on CUTigers.com, ranking Clemson all time, their football program. So check it out. I have them ranked number 13 all time. They've really skyrocketed up the rankings in the last 10 years under Dabo Swinney, adding those 2 national championships. And you know, last 5 years, he has the best record of any coach in 5 years in history, with 69-5. And so, you know, you can read more about my analysis and why I have them ranked where I have them. But pretty interesting stuff, and you know what Dabo's been able to accomplish. He's actually got Clemson set up to be ranked number 1 for the 6th straight year in 2020. Where they'll certainly be preseason, and when that happens, he'll join Frank Leahy, Notre Dame legend, and Nick Saban as the only 3 coaches ever to do that in 6 straight years. And so it's pretty remarkable how Clemson as a program has ascended under his time. I've been watching all these classic football games that the networks have been showing, like 1995 Nebraska and Miami, and 1993 Florida State, Nebraska, and all these games. So it just got me to thinking about where Clemson fits in among the all-time elites. And so check that out when you get a chance. And next time for the live feed, I'll get my little stage set up and comb my hair and shave and make sure I'm ready to go.
Birthday time.
Look at my avatar.
Right on. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, bud. All right, folks, that's Trevor Groves from the CUTigers.com, and we're going to wrap it up here. You and I. First of all, you're wearing the Buccaneers t-shirt, so is there a Tom Brady Buccaneers jersey coming in your package this week?
It's called The Last Thing Clean Before I Did My Laundry, but I got to tell you, I'm very excited. The new storylines in the NFL just make it even more compelling this upcoming season. So can't wait to get things back to normal. Stay safe, everybody, and fantastic job tonight putting this together, Herbie. Just had a fantastic show.
Yeah, we'll be doing this next Wednesday, same time, right? 7 to 8.
Let's do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll talk to more different people from the ACC. We'll see what they're doing, and we'll get everybody ready for the ACC. Hopefully, there was an ACC season, and we'll try to talk to some cool people in the media.
Sounds good, Herbie. We gotta fill the time in, and we're about 3-4 months away from ACC Media Day. But hey, let's talk football. Let's do it.
Exactly, folks. You can watch us on our website. We added us today. It's on Herb FM Sports Weebly.com. Our website. We go on. You can watch us as we do the show here on StreamYard. So we're doing big things here in 2020.
Amen. All right, brother.
All right, buddy. Have a great night. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 7 o'clock.